Welcome, dear listener, to a story of reflection and recognition, of seeing beyond surfaces to the soul that shimmers beneath. Let yourself settle comfortably as we enter a world where glass holds magic. And mirrors reveal more than mere image, they show the truth of hearts waiting to be seen. In the heart of Brooklyn, where converted warehouses hold dreams and ancient crafts find new purpose. There lived an artist whose hands could coax fire into beauty. Venetia Glass, and yes, that was her real name. Inherited from generations of Venetian mirror makers, stood before her largest creation yet, wiping silver dust from her fingers as late afternoon light streamed through industrial windows. The warehouse studio stretched before her like a cathedral of reflection. Mirrors in every stage of completion lined the walls, some still rough glass waiting for silver backing, others polished to perfection but lacking their final blessing. Each surface caught and multiplied the light, creating a symphony of sparkles that danced across exposed brick and concrete floors. The sweet scent of heated glass lingered in the air, mixed with the metallic tang of silver nitrate and the earthy smell of clay crucibles. Venetia had inherited more than just her name from her Nana Isabella. She'd inherited the gift of seeing what people truly needed to see when they looked at themselves. Her mirrors weren't just reflective surfaces, they were windows to self-acceptance, crafted with techniques passed down through 5 centuries of Venetian artisans. Each mirror she created was designed for a specific person, to help them see past their perceived flaws to the beauty that already existed within. But here was the cruel irony that kept Venetia awake at night. The woman who helped others see their inner radiance couldn't bear to look at her own reflection for more than a few seconds. She moved through her studio like a ghost avoiding its own haunting, careful never to catch her eye in the hundreds of mirrors surrounding her. Her movements were practiced, elegant, the result of years learning to navigate a world of reflective surfaces without truly seeing herself. She knew every angle, every safe path through her studio where she could work without confronting her own image. Tonight, as twilight painted the warehouse in shades of rose and gold, Venetia felt the familiar ache in her chest. The longing that had been her constant companion for 33 years, the yearning for someone who could see past the surface, past the careful distance she maintained from her own reflection. To the woman beneath who was desperately afraid of not being enough, her latest commission sat before her, a mirror for a teenage girl whose mother had explained, voice thick with tears, that her daughter refused to leave her room because she hated how she looked. Venetia had been working on this piece for weeks, infusing the silver backing with techniques that would soften harsh lighting, that would catch the girl's natural beauty and reflect it back with gentle honesty. As she worked, her fingers tracing delicate patterns in the silver that would subtly shift light to flatter rather than harsh. Venetia wondered what it would feel like to have someone look at her the way she hoped this mirror would look at its intended recipient, with kindness, with acceptance, with love that saw past imperfection to the soul's true beauty. The October evening grew darker around her, and the studio's artificial lights created new patterns in the mirror maze. Venetia paused in her work, allowing herself a moment of vulnerability. She closed her eyes and let herself imagine, just for a heartbeat, someone entering her sanctuary. Someone whose eyes would see her truly, who wouldn't be fooled by her carefully constructed walls or the way she never quite met her own gaze. Tomorrow, she whispered to the gathered mirrors, her voice echoing softly in the vast space. Tomorrow I'll finish this piece, and another person will learn to love themselves. But when will I? The mirrors seemed to shimmer in response, holding her question in their silver depths. Outside, Brooklyn pulsed with life, couples walking hand in hand, friends sharing laughter, the whole world seemingly reflected in perfect clarity while Venetia remained a beautiful ghost in her own story. Yearning for someone who could see her completely, she didn't know that across the city, another woman was having her own complicated relationship with reflection. Someone whose confidence radiated outward like sunlight, but who carried her own hidden struggles with mirrors and self-acceptance. Someone whose path would soon cross with Venetia's in the most unexpected way. The night deepened around the studio, and Venetia continued her work, each careful stroke of her tools an act of hope that someday, someone would craft for her what she created for others, a way of seeing that transformed fear into love, that turned self-doubt into recognition of beauty that had always been there, waiting to be acknowledged. In the dancing light of hundreds of mirrors, a love story was about to begin, one that would teach both women that the most beautiful reflection was the love they saw in each other's eyes. The next morning arrived with the crisp clarity that only October in Brooklyn could provide. Golden light streamed through the studio's tall windows, setting the mirror maze ablaze with fractured rainbows. Venetia had been working since dawn, lost in the meditative rhythm of her craft. When the sound of approaching voices drifted up from the street, "I don't understand why we can't just buy a regular mirror from IKEA," came a voice rich with laughter and unmistakable warmth. "Because, my dear Rhythm, you've been hiding from mirrors for 3 years. We need something special. Something that will help you see what the rest of us see when we look at you," replied another voice. Gentler, more concerned, Venetia paused in her work, her hands stilling on the delicate silver leaf she'd been applying. She rarely had walk-in clients. Her work was by appointment only, each mirror a carefully planned therapeutic intervention. But something in that first voice, the way it said the name Rhythm with such musical cadence, made her look toward the studio's entrance. The heavy steel door opened with its characteristic groan, and autumn light spilled in along with two figures. The first was a petite woman with silver-streaked hair and the practical clothes of a therapist. But it was the second figure that made Venetia's breath catch in her throat and nearly cost her the mirror she'd been crafting. The woman who stepped into her studio was radiance personified. She moved with the fluid grace of a dancer, her curves celebrated rather than hidden in flowing fabric that caught the light. Her dark skin seemed to glow from within, and her natural hair was crowned with a headband made of tiny mirrors that caught and scattered light like a constellation. But it was her face that truly captured Venetia open, expressive, alive with intelligence and humor, framed by the most beautiful smile Venetia had ever seen. And yet, as they entered the mirror-filled space, Venetia watched this luminous woman do something unexpected. Rhythm's eyes went deliberately unfocused, her gaze sliding away from every reflective surface with practiced avoidance. She navigated the studio like someone walking through a minefield, beautiful but careful never to truly see herself. "Oh my," Rhythm breathed, her voice carrying notes of wonder and apprehension. "This is intense." The older woman, who introduced herself as Dr. Sarah Chen, nodded approvingly. "Rhythm Johnson, meet Venetia Glass." "Venetia, this is my client and friend who I told you about. The dance therapist who helps everyone else love their bodies but won't look at herself in a mirror." Venetia found herself stepping forward, drawn by something she couldn't name. "Welcome to my studio," she said, her voice somehow steadier than she felt. "I understand you're looking for something specific." Rhythm finally met her eyes, the only safe place to look in this hall of mirrors, and the connection was immediate and electric. Brown eyes met blue-green, and something shifted in the air between them. Venetia felt her careful composure wavering under Rhythm's gaze, which was curious, kind, and surprisingly direct. I run a body-positive dance therapy practice, Rhythm explained, her voice growing stronger as she spoke about her work. I help people, mostly women, reconnect with their bodies through movement, learn to love themselves through dance. But she paused, vulnerability flickering across her features. I haven't looked at myself in a full-length mirror in 3 years. Dr. Chen thinks it's time. And you? Venetia asked softly. What do you think? Rhythm was quiet for a moment, considering. Around them, the mirrors caught and multiplied the scene: 2 women standing in a shaft of golden light, seeing each other with startling clarity while surrounded by their own carefully avoided reflections. I think, Rhythm said slowly, that I'm tired of teaching people to love what I can't bear to see in myself. The honesty in her voice hit Venetia like a physical force. Here was someone who understood the cruel paradox of helping others while struggling with your own reflection. Without thinking, Venetia took a step closer. May I? She asked, gesturing toward Rhythm but not quite touching. Sometimes it helps if I understand how someone moves, how they carry themselves. Before I create their mirror, Dr. Chen made her excuses, clearly recognizing the charged atmosphere between the 2 women. I'll leave you two to discuss the project. Rhythm, call me later? And then they were alone among the mirrors, and the studio felt both vast and intimate. Rhythm nodded to Venetia's request, and slowly, naturally began to move. Not dancing exactly, but letting her body find its natural rhythm as she explored the space. Venetia watched, mesmerized. Rhythm moved like water, like music made visible. Every gesture was purposeful, graceful, full of a confidence that seemed to emanate from deep within. She flowed around the mirrors without looking at them, her presence filling the space with warmth and energy. You're beautiful, Venetia whispered, the words escaping before she could stop them. Rhythm stilled, turning to look at her with surprise. You can tell that without me looking in a mirror? I can tell because of the way you move, the way you carry yourself, the way you light up when you talk about helping others. Venetia moved closer, her artisan's eye cataloging every detail. Your confidence is in your gestures. Your kindness is in your expression. Mirror or no mirror, you're radiant. Something shifted in Rhythm's face: surprise, hope, a dawning recognition. And you, she said, studying Venetia with the same intensity, you're someone who sees people truly. The way you look at me. It's like you're seeing past everything I worry about to something I'd forgotten was there. They were standing closer now, the air between them charged with possibilities. Around them, hundreds of mirrors waited silently, but neither woman was looking at the reflective surfaces. They were too busy seeing each other. I have an idea, Venetia said suddenly. What if we work on your mirror together? What if I teach you about glass and reflection while you teach me about movement and self-acceptance? A collaboration. Rhythm's smile was like sunrise. You mean you'd want to spend time with me? Even knowing I'm someone who runs from mirrors? Especially knowing that, Venetia replied. Because I understand running from reflections more than you might think, as if to demonstrate. Venetia moved through the studio, and Rhythm noticed how she, too, avoided catching her own eye in the mirrors. How she navigated her own space with the same careful avoidance Rhythm had shown. We're both hiding from ourselves, aren't we? Rhythm observed gently. But maybe, Venetia said, her voice soft with hope, we can learn to see clearly together. Sometimes the best view of yourself is in someone else's eyes. The morning light shifted, casting new patterns through the mirror maze. And both women felt something beginning, something that had nothing to do with reflection and everything to do with recognition. They were seeing each other clearly for the first time, and in that seeing, the first spark of something deeper began to glow. The mirrors around them held their secret. Two women learning that sometimes the most beautiful view is the one you see when someone special looks at you with love. Over the following weeks, the mirror studio became a sanctuary of discovery. Every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon, Rhythm would arrive with her dance bag and an increasingly bright smile, while Venetia would have tea waiting and a new technique to share. What had begun as a professional arrangement was blooming into something neither woman had expected, a friendship that felt charged with possibility. Today, as November rain drummed against the warehouse windows, the studio felt especially intimate. Warm light from Edison bulbs strung between the rafters created golden pools that danced across the mirror surfaces. Venetia had been teaching Rhythm about the ancient art of silvering, how the delicate application of silver created the magic of reflection. The silver has to be applied with complete trust, Venetia explained, her hands demonstrating the technique on a small practice piece. Too much pressure and you create distortions. Too little and the reflection won't hold. Rhythm watched, fascinated, as Venetia's fingers moved with practiced grace. It's like dance, she observed. The balance between control and letting go. Exactly. Venetia looked up, catching Rhythm's eye. Would you like to try? For a moment, Rhythm hesitated. Working with mirrors meant being surrounded by them, meant risking catching glimpses of herself. But the invitation in Venetia's voice was warm, encouraging, and Rhythm found herself nodding. They moved to the silvering station together, Venetia positioning herself behind Rhythm to guide her hands. The proximity made both women's hearts race. Rhythm could feel the warmth of Venetia's body behind her, while Venetia caught the subtle scent of Rhythm's hair. Something floral and warm that made her want to move closer still. Here, Venetia murmured, her hands covering Rhythm's on the silver leaf applicator. Feel the glass, let it tell you where it wants the silver to go. Rhythm's hands trembled slightly, not from nervousness about the technique, but from the electricity of Venetia's touch. Together, they guided the silver across the glass surface, creating something beautiful and reflective. In the intimate bubble of their shared work, surrounded by the gentle hiss of the gas flames and the rhythm of rain, something deeper began to unfold between them. Tell me about your childhood, Venetia whispered, her breath warm against Rhythm's ear. What made you fall in love with dance? Rhythm leaned back slightly, allowing herself to rest against Venetia's strength. My grandmother, she said softly. She was a jazz dancer in the 50s. She used to say that dance was the only honest language, that your body couldn't lie when it moved to music. Their hands continued to work together, the silver flowing smoothly under their combined guidance. She taught me in her living room, with just an old record player and no mirrors. She said mirrors could lie, but music never did. Listen to your body, she'd tell me, not your eyes. She sounds wise, Venetia murmured, her heart aching for the pain she heard beneath Rhythm's words. What changed? What made mirrors become difficult? Rhythm was quiet for a long moment, their shared breathing the only sound besides the rain. Dance scholarship to Juilliard. Suddenly I was surrounded by mirrors, by teachers who pointed out every flaw, every place my body didn't match the ideal. I started seeing myself through their eyes instead of feeling myself through the music. Venetia's arms tightened slightly around her. a protective gesture that made Rhythm's heart flutter. And now you help others find their way back to the music, while staying lost myself, Rhythm admitted. Dr. Chen says I have body dysmorphia, that I see distortions that aren't there. But it feels so real when I look in mirrors. They had finished silvering the small practice mirror, and now it lay between them, reflecting the warm studio lights. Venetia turned Rhythm gently to face her, their eyes meeting in the golden glow. What if I told you, Venetia said softly, that I've been avoiding mirrors for completely different reasons, but with the same result? That I understand the fear of seeing yourself clearly? Rhythm searched her face. You, but you're stunning. And you work with mirrors all day? A rueful smile crossed Venetia's features. I work with mirrors, yes, but I don't look into them. I can't bear to see. The loneliness, I suppose. The way I've held myself apart from everything, including love. The confession hung between them, vulnerable and honest. Rhythm reached out instinctively, her fingers tracing the line of Venetia's cheek with infinite gentleness. I don't see loneliness when I look at you, she whispered. I see someone who creates beauty for others, someone whose hands hold magic, someone whose eyes see straight to the soul. And I don't see flaws when I look at you, Venetia replied, leaning into Rhythm's touch. I see grace and strength and joy. I see someone who helps people find themselves through movement. I see home. The word surprised them both with its truth. In the warm light of the studio, surrounded by mirrors that neither could bear to look into alone, they saw each other with perfect clarity. Would you, Rhythm began hesitantly, would you dance with me? Here, among your mirrors? I know it sounds strange, but I think I could be brave if you were with me, Venetia's heart stuttered. She hadn't danced since college, hadn't allowed herself that kind of freedom in years. But looking into Rhythm's hopeful eyes, she found herself nodding. I'm not very good, she warned. And I might step on your feet. I'm an excellent teacher, Rhythm grinned, pulling out her phone and scrolling through her music. And I promise, no stepping on feet will be life-threatening. She selected something soft and jazzy, her grandmother's kind of music, and set the phone on the workbench. The melody filled the studio, mixing with the rain and the soft hiss of pilot lights. Rhythm held out her hands, and Venetia took them, letting herself be drawn into the open space at the studio center. Close your eyes, Rhythm instructed gently. Feel the music, not the space. Feel me, not the mirrors. They began to move together, slowly at first. Rhythm led with the confidence of a professional, but also with the tenderness of someone teaching a loved one something precious. Venetia followed, her natural grace emerging as she let herself trust Rhythm's guidance around them. The mirrors caught glimpses of their movement to women learning to be vulnerable together, creating something beautiful in the space between seeing and being seen. But neither was watching the reflections. They were too focused on each other, on the warmth of hands held, on the way their bodies learned to move in harmony. You're a natural, Rhythm murmured as they swayed together, her hands resting on Venetia's waist. You move like you understand music from the inside. I move like I trust you, Venetia replied. Her eyes still closed, her face peaceful in a way it hadn't been in years. The song ended, but they didn't separate. They stood in the center of the mirror maze, holding each other, hearts beating in rhythm. When Venetia finally opened her eyes, she found Rhythm watching her with an expression of such tender affection that it took her breath away. I think, Rhythm said softly, this is the first time in years I've been in a room full of mirrors and not felt afraid. And I think, Venetia replied, her hand coming up to cup Rhythm's face. This is the first time I've looked into someone's eyes and seen my future. The studio around them held its breath. Mirrors and metal and glass all waiting as these two women recognized what was growing between them. Not just attraction, not just understanding, but the beginning of a love that would teach them both to see themselves clearly reflected in each other's eyes. Beautiful and whole and worthy of being seen outside. The rain continued to fall, but inside the mirror studio, two hearts were learning that the most accurate reflection was the love they saw growing between them. Bright and true and perfectly clear. 3 weeks later, the studio had become a world unto itself. What had started as mirror-making lessons had evolved into something much more intimate, long conversations that stretched into evening, shared meals eaten among the reflective surfaces, and a growing awareness that they were falling in love in the most unexpected place imaginable tonight. December's first snow was falling outside the warehouse windows, each flake catching the light like tiny mirrors descending from the dark sky. Venetia had been working on Rhythm's commissioned mirror, the one that had brought them together, but it had become something far more complex than either had initially imagined. I want to show you something, Venetia said, her voice carrying a nervous excitement that made Rhythm look up from where she'd been stretching in preparation for their evening dance session. I've been working on a new technique, something I've never tried before. She led Rhythm to the back corner of the studio, where a cloth-draped form sat on a specially constructed easel. The mirror beneath was large, nearly floor to ceiling, but something about the way Venetia approached it suggested this wasn't an ordinary reflective surface, traditional. Mirrors show us light reflected back, Venetia explained, her hands hovering over the cloth. But what if a mirror could show us more than just photons bouncing off surfaces? What if it could somehow reflect essence? Rhythm moved closer, intrigued. What do you mean? I've been experimenting with different silver compositions, different backing techniques, adding elements that respond to heat, to electrical fields, to the subtle energies our bodies emit. Venetia's eyes were bright with the fervor of discovery. I think I've created something that shows not just how we look, but how we glow. She pulled away the cloth. The mirror that was revealed was unlike anything Rhythm had ever seen. The surface seemed to shimmer and move, the silver backing somehow more alive than static reflection should be. It caught the studio lights but transformed them, creating an effect that was both familiar and otherworldly. It's beautiful, Rhythm breathed, then hesitated. But I still can't. I mean, I don't think I'm ready to look at myself, even in a magical mirror. Venetia turned to face her, close enough that Rhythm could see the gold flecks in her green-blue eyes. What if you weren't looking alone? What if we looked together? The suggestion hung between them, loaded with implications. Looking into a mirror together would be intimate in a way neither had experienced. It would mean standing close, touching, seeing themselves as a unit while also seeing themselves individually. You would do that? Rhythm asked. Look at yourself in a mirror? For me? I would do that with you, Venetia corrected gently. There's a difference. I've been thinking, maybe we've been approaching this wrong. Maybe the answer isn't learning to look at ourselves alone. Maybe it's learning to see ourselves as part of something beautiful. Rhythm's heart began to race, but not with fear, with anticipation. There was something in Venetia's voice, in the way she was looking at her, that suggested this moment was about more than mirrors and therapeutic breakthrough. This felt like a threshold, a moment that would change everything between them. What would we do? Rhythm asked softly. If we looked together. Venetia stepped closer, her hands coming to rest on Rhythm's arms. We would see what I see when I look at you, what you see when you look at me. We would see how beautiful we are together. The studio around them seemed to fade, all the other mirrors becoming secondary to this one, to this moment. Snow continued to fall outside, muffling the sounds of the city and creating a cocoon of intimacy around them. I'm scared, Rhythm admitted. Not of you, but of, what if the mirror shows me what I've been afraid to see? What if I can't handle it? Venetia's hands moved to cup Rhythm's face, thumbs brushing across her cheekbones with infinite tenderness. Then I'll be there to show you what I see. To remind you that you're beautiful, that you're brave, that you're loved. The word loved sent electricity through both of them. It hadn't been spoken before, but it had been growing in the space between them for weeks, in every shared glance and gentle touch, in every moment of vulnerability and trust. Loved. Rhythm whispered, her eyes searching Venetia's face. Completely, Venetia replied without hesitation. Utterly. In ways I didn't know I was capable of feeling. Rhythm's breath caught, and she found herself leaning closer, drawn by the intensity of emotion in Venetia's voice. I love you too, she whispered. I love your gentleness, your artistry, the way you see beauty in everything except yourself. I love how safe you make me feel, how brave. They were so close now that their breath mingled, the mirror forgotten for the moment in the face of this confession. Around them, the studio's other mirrors caught and multiplied their image, two women on the verge of their first kiss, surrounded by reflection but focused only on each other. Will you look with me? Venetia asked, her voice barely audible. Into the mirror? Will you let me show you how beautiful we are together? Rhythm nodded, not trusting her voice. Together, they turned toward the experimental mirror. Venetia's arm around Rhythm's waist, Rhythm's hand finding, Venetia's free hand and interlacing there. Fingers, what they saw in the mirror's surface took both their breaths away. The experimental silver backing seemed to respond to their combined presence, showing not just their physical forms, but something more ethereal. They glowed, actually glowed, with a soft light that seemed to emanate from wherever they touched. Rhythm's radiant confidence was visible as a warm golden aura, while Venetia's artistic soul showed as silver starlight that danced around her form. But most miraculous of all was what happened where their energies mingled. The golden warmth and silver starlight swirled together, creating something entirely new, a aurora of love that surrounded them both, making them appear not just beautiful but luminous, magical, perfect. Oh, Rhythm gasped, seeing herself truly for the first time in years, not through the harsh judgment of her own eyes, but as part of something beautiful, as someone who brought light to another person's life. Is that really how you see me? It's how you really are, Venetia whispered, marveling at how the mirror showed her own beauty reflected in Rhythm's love. We're both beautiful. Together, we're radiant, unable to resist any longer. Rhythm turned in Venetia's arms, and they kissed for the first time. Soft at first, tentative, then deeper as weeks of building attraction finally found expression. The mirror behind them seemed to pulse with gentle light, reflecting their love back in waves of golden and silver radiance. When they broke apart, both women were breathless, hearts racing with the thrill of love acknowledged and desire awakened. I want to keep looking, Rhythm said, surprising herself. I want to see us like this, see how love looks on our faces. Together, they turned back to the mirror, arms around each other, and watched themselves smile. Watched love transform their faces into something luminous and beautiful. For the first time in years, Rhythm saw herself clearly not as a collection of flaws, but as a woman capable of love and worthy of being loved. "This mirror," she said wonderingly. "It's magic." "No," Venetia replied, pressing a kiss to her temple. "The magic is us." The mirror just knows how to show it. The snow continued to fall outside, but inside the studio, two women had found something more warming than any fire. They had found love that let them see themselves clearly. Love that made them both beautiful in ways they had never imagined possible, and the mirrors all around them held the secret of their transformation. Reflecting back a truth they were finally ready to see, that love was the most beautiful reflection of all. Christmas Eve arrived with a quiet snowfall that transformed Brooklyn into a wonderland of white and silver. The mirror studio had been transformed as well. Venetia had strung warm white lights between the mirrors, creating a galaxy of reflected stars that danced across every surface. Tonight felt different, charged with the promise of revelation and the weight of decisions that would shape their future. Rhythm had arrived earlier than usual, her arms full of takeout containers and a bottle of champagne that suggested celebration. But there was something in her expression, a nervous energy, an anticipation that made Venetia's heart race with possibilities. "I have news," Rhythm announced, setting her packages on the work table they had cleared for dinner. "Big news." Venetia felt her stomach flutter with anxiety. Over the past month, they had grown closer than she had ever imagined possible. They spent nearly every evening together, working on mirrors by day and dancing among reflections by night. They had kissed countless times, held each other through vulnerable moments, and shared pieces of their souls. But they hadn't spoken of the future, hadn't defined what this beautiful thing between them was becoming. Good news or complicated news? Venetia asked, moving closer to help unpack their dinner. "Both," Rhythm grinned, her eyes sparkling. "I got a grant. A big one, to open my own body positive dance therapy center, complete with a revolutionary mirror installation designed by a brilliant glass artist I happen to be madly in love with." The words hit Venetia like a wave of joy and terror combined. "Rhythm, that's wonderful. But designed by me? Are you sure? I mean, we haven't talked about business partnerships or about the fact that I'm completely, irrevocably in love with you." Rhythm interrupted, stepping close enough that Venetia could see the determination and tenderness warring in her expression. "Because I am, Venetia. I'm in love with your brilliant mind, your gentle hands, the way you see beauty where others see flaws. I'm in love with the woman who taught me to see myself clearly again." Venetia's breath caught. They had said "I love you" in moments of passion, whispered it during tender embraces, but this felt different. This felt like a declaration, like a choice being made about their future. "The grant money would let us create something revolutionary together," Rhythm continued, her voice growing stronger with conviction. "A therapeutic space where people can learn to love their reflections, to see themselves the way your experimental mirror shows us as beings of light and beauty and worth." She moved to the miraculous mirror they had looked into that first night, the one that had shown them their love made visible. "What if we could help others see themselves this way? What if your artistry and my therapeutic knowledge could heal the same wounds we've both carried?" Venetia stared at her, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what Rhythm was suggesting. Not just a business partnership, but a life partnership. Not just love, but purpose shared. The dream was so beautiful, so perfect, that it terrified her. "Rhythm," she said softly, "what you're describing, it's everything I've ever wanted. But are you sure? Are you sure about us, about this, About building a future together when we've only been whatever we are for a month? Instead of answering immediately, Rhythm moved to the experimental mirror and gestured for Venetia to join her. Together, they looked at their reflection, at the golden and silver light that danced around them, at the whale of made them luminous. Look at us, Rhythm said quietly. Really look. Do you see uncertainty? Do you see something temporary or fleeting? Venetia looked, and what she saw took her breath away. In the mirror's special surface, their love was visible as something solid, enduring. The light that surrounded them wasn't the flickering flame of new attraction, it was the steady glow of recognition, of souls finding their perfect match. I see forever, Venetia whispered, the truth of it settling into her bones. I see home. Rhythm turned in her arms, and the look in her eyes was radiant with hope. Then say yes. Say yes to the grant, to the partnership, to building something beautiful together. Say yes to loving me, to letting me love you, to creating a future where we help others see themselves the way we see each other. The studio around them seemed to hold its breath, hundreds of mirrors waiting for Venetia's answer. Outside, snow continued to fall, muffling the world in peaceful quiet. This felt like a moment balanced on the edge of forever, a threshold that, once crossed, would change everything. Yes, Venetia said, the word coming from the deepest place in her heart. Yes to all of it. Yes to you. Yes to us. Yes to the most beautiful future I can imagine. Rhythm's smile was like sunrise, brilliant and warming everything it touched. She laughed with pure joy, spinning in Venetia's arms, and the mirrors around them caught and multiplied their happiness, creating a kaleidoscope of celebration. I love you, Rhythm declared, her voice ringing with certainty. I love you so much that I can finally look at myself in mirrors again, because I see myself through your eyes. I see someone worthy of this incredible love, and I love you, Venetia replied, her own voice strong with newfound confidence. So much that I can finally see my own beauty because you reflect it back to me every day. You've taught me to see clearly. They kissed then, deep and passionate, a kiss that tasted of promises and dreams coming true. Around them, the mirrors held their joy, reflecting back not just their image, but their love made visible, their future spreading out in infinite possibilities. When they broke apart, both breathless and glowing with happiness, Venetia had one more surprise. I have something for you, she said, moving to retrieve a wrapped package from her workbench. I've been working on it since the day we met, but I finished it today. Your mirror, not just any mirror, but your mirror, the one that will show you what I see when I look at you. Rhythm accepted the gift with trembling hands, carefully unwrapping the silk cloth to reveal a handheld mirror unlike any she had ever seen. The silver backing seemed to pulse with gentle warmth, and the frame was inscribed with words in flowing script. Beloved, you are radiant. It's programmed, Venetia explained softly, to show you your inner light, to reflect back the confidence you share with your students, the kindness you show to everyone you meet, the courage that brought you to my studio that first day. When you look into this mirror, you'll see yourself as I see you, as the woman I fell in love with. Rhythm lifted the mirror with reverence, and for the first time in 3 years, looked at her full reflection without fear. What she saw made tears of joy spring to her eyes. The mirror showed her face glowing with love, her eyes bright with purpose, her smile radiant with the knowledge that she was cherished completely. I'm beautiful, she whispered in wonder. I'm actually beautiful. You always were, Venetia replied, wrapping her arms around Rhythm from behind so they both appeared in the small mirror's surface. You just needed the right reflection to see it. The champagne was opened, toasts were made to their future, and as Christmas Eve deepened into night, the women celebrated not just the holiday but the miracle of love that had transformed them both. In a studio full of mirrors, they had learned the most beautiful truth of all, that love was the clearest reflection, showing them not just who they were, but who they could become together. The snow fell softly outside and inside, surrounded by light and love and infinite possibilities. Venetia and Rhythm planned their beautiful future, a therapeutic center where others could learn what they had discovered. That true beauty wasn't something you saw in mirrors, but something you recognized and loved. 6 months later, on a warm June evening when the setting sun painted Brooklyn in shades of rose and gold, the grand opening of Reflections Center for Body Positive Therapy was in full swing. What had once been just Venetia's mirror studio had been transformed into something magical, a healing space where therapeutic mirrors and movement therapy combined to help people see their true beauty. The main room still held Venetia's workshop, but now it was joined by a dance studio with specially designed mirrors that showed movement and grace rather than harsh judgment. Each reflective surface in the building had been crafted by Venetia's hands, programmed with her revolutionary techniques to show inner light and beauty rather than perceived flaws. But as the evening wound down and their last visitors departed with promises to return for classes and sessions, Venetia and Rhythm found themselves alone in their sanctuary, tired but glowing with the satisfaction of dreams made manifest. "Look what we built," Rhythm said softly, moving through the space they had created together. The mirrors caught the golden hour light and transformed it, creating a palace of gentle radiance around them. "Can you believe this is real?" Venetia followed her, watching the way Rhythm moved with complete confidence now, no longer avoiding her reflection but dancing with it, celebrating the beauty she had learned to see in herself. "I can believe it," she said, "because we built it together, because we learned to see ourselves clearly first." They made their way to what had become their favorite spot, the experimental mirror where they had first looked at themselves together, where they had first seen their love made visible. Now it served as the centerpiece of their therapy center, helping others experience the same breakthrough they had shared. "Dr. Chen called today," Rhythm said, settling into Venetia's arms as they faced their reflection together. "She has 3 new clients who specifically asked for our mirror therapy program." Word is spreading. Venetia hummed contentedly, pressing a kiss to Rhythm's temple. In the mirror, they could see themselves as they truly were, not just 2 people who had found love, but partners in every sense, creators of healing. Women who had learned to transform their own wounds into wisdom that helped others. The specialized mirrors still showed their combined aura, the golden and silver light that danced around them when they were together. But now there was something new in their reflection, a deep contentment, a peace that came from knowing they were exactly where they belonged. "I have something to tell you," Rhythm said, turning in Venetia's arms with a smile that was both nervous and radiant. "Something wonderful." Venetia's heart fluttered with anticipation. Over the past months, they had shared so many wonderful moments, the first time Rhythm led a class in front of mirrors without fear. The day their first client had a breakthrough with Venetia's therapeutic glasswork. The evening they had moved in together officially, combining their lives as completely as they had combined their work. The grant committee called. Rhythm continued, her eyes sparkling. "They want to fund a national program. They want us to train other therapists, to create reflection centers in cities across the country. They want to help us share what we've discovered with the world." Venetia stared at her, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what Rhythm was describing. "A national program? That would mean traveling together, teaching together, helping people everywhere learn to see their own beauty. It would mean spending every day working side by side, creating healing wherever we go." Rhythm's voice dropped to a whisper. It would mean a lifetime of this of us, of love, of purpose shared. The future rhythm painted was so beautiful, so perfect, that Venetia felt tears spring to her eyes. Not tears of sadness, but tears of gratitude for how far they had come. For the love that had transformed two women afraid of their own reflections into healers who helped others see clearly. Yes, she whispered, the word carrying all the love and certainty in her heart. Yes, to traveling the world with you. Yes, to building something bigger than we ever dreamed. Yes, to a lifetime of seeing myself clearly in your eyes. They kissed then, soft and sweet, a kiss that tasted of promises and dreams fulfilled. Around them, the mirrors of their sanctuary reflected back not just their image but their love story to women who had found each other in the most unlikely place, who had learned to see beauty by learning to love. As the evening light faded and the studio settled into peaceful quiet, they remained in each other's arms, planning their beautiful future, sharing quiet dreams and gentle touches. The mirrors around them held their contentment, their peace, their absolute certainty that they had found something rare and precious, a love that made them both more beautiful, more whole, more themselves than they had ever been alone. I love you, rhythm murmured as drowsiness began to claim them both. I love the way you see me, the way you've taught me to see myself, the way we reflect the best in each other. And I love you, Venetia replied, her voice soft with approaching sleep and deep contentment. I love the way you dance through life, the way you brought light to my shadows, the way we create beauty together. The studio grew quiet around them, but the mirrors continued their silent vigil, holding the reflection of two women who had discovered the most profound truth of all, that love was the clearest mirror, showing them not just who they were, but who they could become when they learned to see themselves through eyes of compassion, acceptance, and infinite tenderness. In the gentle light of their shared sanctuary, surrounded by surfaces that showed inner beauty and radiance, Venetia and Rhythm drifted toward sleep, hearts full of love and dreams of all the people they would help see their own light. They had learned that the most beautiful reflection was the love they saw in each other's eyes. And now they would spend their lives helping others discover that same luminous truth. The mirrors held their peace, their love, their promise of forever reflecting back a future as bright and beautiful as the love that had created it. Infinite and true and perfectly clear, gentle breathing sounds fill the space as our lovers drift into peaceful sleep. Their love story complete, but their journey just beginning. Let yourself sink into the same peaceful rest, knowing that true love, like the most perfect mirror, shows us exactly who we are meant to be. Thank you for joining Venetia and Rhythm on their journey from reflection to recognition, from fear to love, from individual healing to shared purpose. May you too find someone who helps you see your own inner radiance, and may you always remember that the most beautiful view is the love reflected in the eyes of someone who sees you truly. Sweet dreams, dear listener. Sweet dreams.